Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Work Knits podcast, my very last one before Christmas. I really hope you're doing well, you're enjoying this festive period, whether you're celebrating Christmas or you're just taking some time to yourself, or maybe it's kind of a normal week apart from the number of lights that are up everywhere. Whatever it is that you're doing, I hope you've been staying safe and enjoying some making. I have been very excited to record this episode because I have quite a lot of finished objects to show you, very rare for me, but this will be my very last one before Christmas and I have lots of plans for the new year, so I think maybe some of my excitement's also coming from that. If you're a new viewer, my name's Lauren, I'm coming from England in the United Kingdom, and this is the kind of space where I talk a little bit about what I've made, some of the things that I'm looking forward to making in the coming months, and yeah, mainly knitting, but sometimes a few other little bits too thrown in. So where to begin? I mean, it's a Christmassy episode. The only little bit of Christmas I've got in shot is this advent calendar, which is a lovely old traditional advent calendar, the little doors you open and the pictures behind it. It's been gorgeous to open every single day. I've also been very lucky to have an advent calendar that I did a swap with Anne of my North Knit Corner, who's also got a podcast here on YouTube. We swapped homemade yarn advents with each other, so that was really, really nice. So I've been spoiled for advents, basically. For some of you, you'll have been following me along for Vlogmas. I unfortunately had to completely cut off doing Vlogmas. I've had COVID, which has been not ideal. I had some footage for a third Vlogmas video, but you could just see me getting progressively more ill, and I just thought that's not what people are here for. That's not very Christmassy. And my voice is still not 100% with it, so apologies if my voice is going up and down or I'm having to kind of clear my throat, etc. But let's dive in, and the first finished object I'm already holding the pom-pom for because, oh, I'm so excited. So I will go through the usual format, some finished objects, some works in progress, and then I will talk about a make-along will be running from the 26th of December and a little bit of future knitting plans which are kind of tied in. There'll be a couple of acquisitions right at the end. So to kick things off, my first finished object is the classic ribbed hat by Purl Soho. This I had maybe knit down to just the start of the red for the last episode. So the Purl Soho pattern calls for DK weight yarn. I can't remember what needle size it calls for, but I used a 3.75, and I did something a bit strange with this in the sense that we were on a plane and I knew that I wasn't going to have enough yarn to do the whole hat in the pink, but I wasn't quite sure how far it would go. So I cast on just below the crown decreases. I then knit the crown, and then I picked back up and then knit the rest of the hat. Now, if I'd been at home and I'd had a crochet hook, I would have done a proper provisional cast on. As it was, I didn't have a crochet hook to hand, so I did a normal cast on, which means there is a seam on the inside of the hat, and I've just covered that on the outside with a little design detail, which is the contrast colour in a crochet chain. So I think that's worked out quite well, really. The yarn I've used is Merina Skua Mendip DK in the rose colourway for the pink. And then the red is actually a acrylic based yarn from King Cole. It's the DK Big Value, I think, and this is just literally the colourway red. And the reason for using kind of different bases, so I knew, as I said, that I'd run out of the pink, but I intentionally used a non-wool for the base of the bottom part of the hat, because the hat's going to be used for someone who does open water swimming, and whilst wool is great when wet, it does tend to smell quite a lot, and if it's getting wet regularly that could become quite hard to maintain. So I wanted an acrylic bottom to the hat because A, it won't get as heavy when it gets wet, but B, it won't hopefully smell quite as bad. Obviously the individual will wash the hat and stuff if it gets wet regularly, but I was just trying to think about how the item would be used. So yeah, really happy with this, and it's got the double coloured pom-pom to go on top. I've accidentally dropped that on the floor, so I'm not going to interrupt the flow to grab that, but yeah, absolutely love the Purl Soho decreases, the way they do those on top of their hats, and I just love the number of sizes it comes in. Yeah, just great. Because obviously I was knitting essentially the hat top down, really, I needed a really stretchy bind off, so I have done an Italian sewn bind off. This is something I've only maybe done in the last year or so on any items. I'm still struggling a little bit with when you have to convert it from 2x2 to 1x1. And I've not done it yet where I've had to do the setup round to make it tubular. I've only ever done it just where it's straight on one needle, but nonetheless, for a while I thought, what's the fuss about? Now I've got it, I understand. So I just need to sew the pom-pom on. I might even gift it like this and then sew the pom-pom on afterwards, because I just think the pom-pom might bend and get a bit mashed up if I'm trying to wrap it. But that is my first finished object, a classic ribbed hat by Purl Soho. That feels good to get that one off the needles. Another finished object since the last episode, and this, for long-term viewers, has been on my needles for literally most of this year. Best part of half a year, I think is fair. So, this is a project that was just kind of doodle. There wasn't a pattern, I just was playing. But this is my Grink Wrap, which I can't even show all of it on camera. For those who follow me on Instagram, you will have already had a peek of this. So the idea here was that I had never done intarsia, so I was wanting to play with intarsia. I didn't want to do it on a sweater. I just wanted to try something flat, and I really was in a geometric kind of vibe. For the main body of this, if you ignore the border for now, for the main body of the wrap, I held one strand of Knoll Yarns Superfine lambswool in the colourway Almond. I held that with different colours of mohair to get the different blocks, but the almond is held the whole way through, which kind of amazes people when I say that to them, because obviously the colours look so different. So there's one strand of superfine lambswool, first held with, well, it depends which way you look at it, but first held with Isager Mohair in the Ecru colourway. Then held with Gullrock Fibres naturally dyed rose gold mohair, which is just stunning. I've spoken about them in previous episodes. I just cannot speak highly enough of Gullrock Fibres and their natural dyeing techniques, and the yarn they produce is just stunning. And then the darkest colour is a little ball of Schulana Kid Silk mohair in the colourway 210. And then for this border, I held two strands of the Knoll Yarns Superfine lambswool in the colourway Oxford together to do the border. Now, I was going to do an I-cord bind off, but actually I quite like how delicate and flat this is sitting. It's rolling slightly, but it's not horrendous, and I just like the kind of light finish. I think I'd have to do a pretty tiny I-cord to make it look delicate, and I think that could throw off the kind of clean lines, because to do it on a small needle I might then warp the gauge on the sides, if you see what I mean. Anyway, that will be an experiment for another time, maybe. There was so many ends to weave in, and the reason this project took so long was because not only did I have two different colours to be doing the intarsia, but then both colours were held two yarns together, so there was always about 4 to 6 balls of yarn attached to the project, and it's been knit up on 3.25mm needles, so it's just been a labour of love, but I do love it, and I feel like it's more like art than my standard knitting, so I'm very proud of it. But yeah, this is my so-called Grink Wrap, and it is done. Maybe I will wear it around my neck like this, just so I'm wearing some knitwear. There we go. But that is not the only scarf I've been knitting on. Full confession, so the reason I'm not in my normal knitty attire today is we are celebrating with my husband's family today, which is Christmas Eve. I had actually already recorded this episode, which turned out to have no audio, so we're doing this live on Christmas Eve, and I will just quickly edit and upload today. But that's why I'm not in my normal knitty attire, and I'm kind of in a smartish dress, but then face and hair isn't done yet. And add to the chaos, I was up until 2:30 in the morning, finishing the following Christmas gift knit. Now, I've been working on this for a number of weeks, and why it has taken me so long, I just don't know. I love the pattern in the sense that it's a very simple idea which executes something really chic and beautiful. But I think because it's in garter stitch, and there's some bits where you're kind of having to change stitches, anyway I'll show you in a minute, but it just means that it took forever. Like, it would take an hour and a half just to do, plus more than an hour and a half just to do one little section. So what am I talking about? I am talking about the Kostner scarf. This is a scarf from 52 Weeks of Scars, published by Lane, whichever you want to pronounce it, publishing. And the pattern is by, and I keep getting this wrong, I can't remember if she's Erica or Erin Jensen. She's Mummy to Lou on Instagram. So anyway, this, I have kind of gone a little bit off piece with the pattern. The designer would be able to tell. I took the basic concept and then I just slightly freewheeled it. So I decided to do 2, 1, 2, 1 on the stripes and repeat like that. And then I've thrown in my additional colour on the verticals. This is a kind of garter stitch knit. There you go, you can see. Garter stitch scarf. I also modified it to make it narrower. Believe it or not, this is narrow compared to the original, which is more like out here. I'm very pleased I made that modification. I just reduced it by a couple of repeats. And this is knit up in the main colour is BC Garn Loch Lomond in the colourway 09. This was before I realised that everyone was having a frenzy over Loch Lomond. I just got a couple of skeins because I loved the colour, particularly for the recipient of this gift. And then I've seen so many people knitting with it. I think Lily Kate is knitting with it as well at the moment, as well as a few others. And then the contrast colours are also like the first finished object I showed you, Marina Skua Mendip DK. Excuse me, clearing my throat. The creamy white colour is the base Sunny, which I think is like a natural undyed colour, and then the grey is a dyed grey, which is called Coal. I absolutely love this Mendip DK from Marina. She dyes it beautifully, but there's also just such a lovely quality to the base. It's very plump, very round DK weight yarn. I'd almost say you could knit it at worsted gauge, but it just gives a really clean finish. And then I finished the scarf off with just some little fringe. The yarn reacts slightly differently, so I've maybe not blended my ends to my verticals quite as well as I could have done, but we tried. So I'm absolutely delighted that this is done. It's about my wingspan, just a bit more, and it will be for my father-in-law. So my first knitted gift to him on the first Christmas that I have married his son. So that will hopefully be really lovely. Needle size is the only thing I think I haven't mentioned. I knit this on 5mm needles and use a 5mm crochet hook to add the extra vertical lines. I will potentially be knitting another one of these, and I will knit it slightly differently, so I'll come on to that with my future knitting plans. Okay, even though it is Christmas Eve, I still have some more Christmas gift knitting to do, which moves me on to whips. Now, luckily there's two of these because one of them's in a pretty difficult state to show you and is also in a complete messy knot. Great. Right. In my last episode I showed that I was making these dots, gloves and mittens pattern. I will put the designer's name down below in the description box. I have now knit the second one and I've picked up the thumb on the second one, but there's now yarn and needles in a complete mess on that. I just need to bind off that first thumb and then do the second one, and then if I have time I'm going to duplicate stitch the design onto the thumbs. They want you to do colour work on the thumbs, but I really don't like magic loop, and I especially don't like magic loop with colour work. So if the thumbs end up plain, then I'm sure the recipient will not mind. I have knit this pattern not to gauge. The pattern is designed for women's medium-sized hands, and the recipient is a man with larger hands. So I have sized up on needles. The pattern calls for 2.75 and 3. I've gone up to 3.5 and then just used the same stitch counts. And I have done something slightly different with the decreases. So I followed the decreases up until about here, and then the pattern calls for you to do in the round decreases, not just angled decreases. I haven't, I've kept going with the angled, and then I've grafted the top together. And what else can I tell you? So the main colour yarn is Wool Dreamers Saona base, which is a wool cotton blend in the colourway Ozetta. I really like the wool cotton properties. I think it really helps those who maybe suffer with temperature control a little bit, and it's great for your hands because if your hands get cold, the rest of you will be cold. But hands also heat up quite quickly, so it's that getting that balance. So hopefully the cotton wool combo will do that. The contrast colour is Studio Donegal Tweedy in the colourway Mustard. and that was some leftovers from another project, so this has been a really good scrappy one. And there's a different version of the mittens and the gloves, which all come in one pattern, where you do the texture in 2 different colours, so that would be great for scraps. So I've really enjoyed this pattern. It's a super quick knit, it's just these have been slightly on the back burner, but I need to just finish those thumbs today before going back to see my parents tomorrow. So that's my first kind of whip, but that's been on the needles for a little while. I feel like I'm really gallivanting through these, but we'll keep the pace up. So my only other whip that I've put serious progress into, I'm entering the new year with actually not too many whips on the needles. I've got some really, really old ones that have been boxed up in amongst all our house moves and etc. More updates on that in the new year, but there's some that are kind of boxed away somewhere that I probably don't even remember I've got on the go. There's maybe 1 or 2 that have been with me that I haven't made any progress on. One is the Mui wrap, which is also from 52 Weeks of Scarves, but I'm very excited to turn back to that. I think there's a half-finished object in the sense that I've got a sock and I need to knit the second one, and I'm just kind of looking around me. I think there's like, yeah, 1 or 2 others that are in their infancy, but no, not many major active whips. I've got lots of needles that are free, which is very rare. I don't have that many needles, but still, very rare. All that to say, one of the only other things I've been working on, and I'm going to be really looking forward to turning to more, is my test knit for contour knitwear. This is the Achill Jumper, and I've made some progress since last time, guys. Right, it's looking a little bit odd because this neckline needs to be stretched out a bit more, but I have knit the front and back body. I've then joined it in the round. I've then done a couple of the cables down the sides, a couple of repeats of that, and then I've picked up for the neckline and done 2x2 rib. This is where I had that confusion with doing the cast off, like a bound, sewn cast off. I just couldn't do it with the 2x2 rib. That's my lack of skill, nothing to do with the pattern. And I'm knitting this on 4mm needles or 4.5? Let's have a look. 4.5mm needles. I'm not going to reveal the yarn, but I'm very open to people having a guess, but I'd like to reveal that at the end. But as you can see, it's producing this absolutely beautiful, slightly mild, a very heathery, and I think it would be beautiful when blocked. It's got some really good definition. There we go, on that shoulder seam. So yeah, really enjoying this knit. I kind of would have loved to have worn it for Christmas, but some gift knitting took precedence. And then I've also picked up for the first sleeve, and I'm just about to start decreasing, so that's very exciting. So lots of progress on this. It's now upside down, but lots of progress on this, 2 sets of needles, and very excited to crack on with that. The test knit is running till I think about mid-Jan, so I need to get going. But we're fine, we're on the good bit. I think I'll knit both the sleeves first and then finish off the body. So that's my only other kind of active whip. I'm weirdly going to loop back momentarily to finished objects, but it's because I don't actually have the finished objects anymore. I've already gifted them. But I thought I'd mention this because if anyone's got any gifts they want to knit in 2024, I cannot recommend this book more highly. You can see my light showing up in it, but this is Mini Knitted Toys by Sashio Ishii. It's 30 of them, and yes, they're toys, but I think they make beautiful ornaments. And I'm just going to I'm going to see if I can find a picture without showing you the instructions of the toys that I knit as a gift. Let's see. Prepared podcaster would have had like a little, bookmark in or something, but no, we're going for authentic, au naturel. Here we go, but I don't know. Okay, I'm going to try and... Can you see those? So I have knit a little Triceratops, which is over on the far side, and a Diplodocus. They're just gorgeous. I knit them up on 2.25mm needles, and I held fingering weight scraps double. You make them in pieces, you seam them together, and you can use all your scrappy ends to fill them, which I just think is amazing. So all in all, it's just a lovely project. It took me 2.5 hours to make each one, but they were really good fun. So that's been my other one. I will see if I can nick them back off the recipients for a quick picture at some point, because it would be really lovely to have a picture of those. But those were some other things I have been knitting up. As I say, I feel like I'm running through this really quickly, but there is going to be a full roundup of everything I've knit in 2023 coming probably in the next week or so, before the new year for sure. So you can get more details and more kind of nitty goodness there. But I'm now going to quickly switch on to the make along that I'm going to be running from the 26th, which is just 2 days time, till the end of January. And then I'll come on to acquisitions at the very end, because I know not everyone is up for acquisitions. But the make along, so I promised some more details. I have put a post out on Instagram, which I'm just coming up to show you. Whoop. Here's my post on Instagram with my mood board. The idea behind this make along is that I think lots of us in 2023 were doing things that we felt we should do and not necessarily what we want to do. Or maybe we were gift knitting a lot, or maybe we were prioritising making things to wear because we're now socialising more post-COVID, or whatever it might be. I don't know, I just got the sense that some of us weren't really investing in us. We were just doing what we thought we should be doing. And Christmas is obviously a time where you do a lot for other people, which is really lovely. But after that, I think it's really important to take some time for you. So I'm going to be running an Invest in Yourself make along from Boxing Day here in the UK, 26th, through to the end of January, the last day of January. I haven't got prizes produced yet. I will wait to see who wins, who gets drawn, and we'll base the prize around them. Alternatively, if there are any small businesses or, you know, up and coming designers who'd like to contribute, then I'm welcoming donations. I'm very open to that. Would love an opportunity to showcase your beautiful work. And yeah, I've just been having a think about what I might want to knit. On that mood board, you'll see that something on there is the Kostner scarf that I mentioned from 52 Weeks of Scarves by Liner Publishing. The designer's name on Ravelry is Twin Needles. So I might knit a version of that for myself, but can you see this really bright orange fluff? This is an Italian brand, is it Adrian? Let's just have a look, rather than trying to guess. Adriafil Cubicle, £6.50 a ball, and it's 40% acrylic, 36% alpaca, 14% wool and 10% polyamide, and it suggests 5.5mm needles, and this is colour 86. I just think this is beautiful. I've got 3 balls of it, and then I have got some Rowan Alpaca Classic, 25 grams of this, which is 57% alpaca, 43% cotton, and this is colour 104. So I'll do that as the contrast for the kind of tartany checks. So I'd like to knit myself one. I'm probably only going to do 3 repeats of the pattern. So it's going to be a square narrower than the one I've just knit. And I don't know if it'll go any faster. That one might be still another slow progress. The other things on my mood board are the Instant Crush pullover by Johi Locatelli. I've also got the Funfetti raglan by Andrea Gauguin. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. The Valletta raglan by Stephanie Earp. There's the Oakham Moss sweater by Andrea Mowry. There's one by Drops. There's the Georges sweater by Joanna Gerich, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I started knitting one of those for my bridesmaids for my wedding just a month or so ago. Didn't end up finishing those, very long story, but I would like to finish one and then have it for me. A bit selfish, I know. And then I'd love to knit another Mohair Gallant sweater by Kadri. I've already got one, I love it, and I'd like to use this Isager Highland wool that's at the bottom of this middle block here in the colourway Rhubarb, and do either like a short sleeve version, or we'll just see how long we get to with the yarn. But yeah, we'd love to do a version and that'd be so good. So those were just a few ideas, but I also had saved, and I was going through kind of my saved knitting posts on Instagram, and I came across one that I can't believe I'd forgotten about it, but I was obsessed with at the time that it came out, and that is the Last Light shawl. Isn't that just gorgeous? I'd love to make that, and that's by Telly Bean Knits. But there's loads in my saved that I need to go and have a look at. There's also the Madge sweater. Here we go. Oh, there's so many, so I'm going to have to kind of narrow down and choose, but yeah, some really exciting knits coming up in the future. So let me know if you'd like to participate down below in the comments. This make along's gonna be run on Instagram with the hashtag #InvestInYourselfMal. And yeah, we will see where we get to. Depending how many people end up entering will depend how many prizes we draw. More people that enter, the more prizes we'll draw, but it's just about kind of bringing ourselves together as a community at the first thing in 2024 and kind of kicking the year off to a good start. So really, really excited about that. Some other things I will be knitting in January will evolve around some acquisitions. So let's move briefly on to those. So 2 main acquisitions for me, and funnily enough, if you'd watched this podcast at the beginning of the year, you would have seen mainly pure wool, maybe some mohair acquisitions. You really wouldn't have seen very much acrylic yarn, but I think I'm feeling more and more that it's really important on this podcast to be, well, and actually for myself in my own knitting practice, I guess, it's just so important to be realistic about different budget points, about, you know, quantity of knitting we're doing, and not putting pressure on ourselves all the time. And so what I've been trying to do is to try and research acrylic yarns or not 100% wool yarns that A, give the look of wool, but B, are as good for the environment as they can be. And I know for some that might be a bit oxymoronic, but you know, there is options out there that are not wool but are still okay for the environment. And one thing that I came across, which I was just so impressed by, was Prima. Now this colour is not showing up accurately, but it is highlighter pink, it's bright pink. Love the colour. This is a super soft, sustainable acrylic yarn made from 100% recycled acrylic, which I just think is fantastic. You get 280 metres approximately per 100 grams. You can machine wash it at 40, so it's great for busy people who don't have time to be hand washing knits or sorting things into different piles. That's me sometimes, or was me. I've got a little bit more time in 2024. You can tumble dry this and you can dry clean it. So all the options, excuse me, my voice going, all the options. But yeah, it says produced with the environment in mind. So there are options out there. This was £3 a ball for 100 grams. So you could get a 400 grams plus for, you know, £12 in the UK, which is actually cheaper than going to a high street store and buying a sweater, which isn't that what our craft's all about, is sometimes being able to make something beautiful for less than spending, you know, it's a nifty, thrifty way of dressing yourself. So anyway, I bought 4 of these. I am so excited to knit with them. I kind of want to get some navy from the same brand if they do it, and I'd love to do something with the 2. So please put below any suggestions for what I could knit up with this. But DK, so hopefully a little bit quicker. I'm knitting with more DK yarn now, guys. It's giving me a bit more mojo. So any DK weight sweaters using 2 colours. This would be the main colour. There's is it Lena, who does the porcelain sweater. I don't know if people have seen that, but maybe something like that. I don't know. Let me know what you think. And then my other acquisition along similar lines, although this one, it's not horrendous for the environment, but it's not quite as sustainable, is this 100% acrylic yarn from King Cole. This is Price-Wise, double knitting in the shade Caramel. And the reason for picking 2 balls of this up is we have a friend who's having a baby in the new year. So something else you'll see going on my needles is one of the petite knit baby romper suity onesie things. So I'm very excited to cast that on. I love baby knits. They go so quickly and they're so gorgeous. And there's nothing cuter than a baby in hand knits. So yes, this will be very new parent friendly, I hope. The very final thing, which I'd actually forgotten to pull out as an acquisition, so we're going to do a little rummage behind my chair. A friend of mine visited Iceland in the last month or so and was so sweet and brought me back some Olafs Ly. So this is not really an acquisition, it's a Christmas gift, but just incredible. And this says warm and cozy, ideal for outdoor wear. So I'm gonna have to find some contrast to go with this, or maybe more of the same, and then I will make it into like a kind of jackety sweater thing. This is quite a thick base. Lopi do a number of different Lopis, including the Plutalopi, which is their unspun, which I also really want to try. This is 100 meters per 100 grams, and they recommend 5.5 to 6.5 millimeter needles. And it's just got the most gorgeous fleck. There you go, you can see that. It's just, oh, it's the most stunning colour. So I have 2 balls of this so far. This is colour 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice and easy. So yeah, I've been wanting to try this yarn for ages. I do have a bit of a gap in my wardrobe for something I can just throw on. I might think about making, is it called The Big Love or The Big Hug by Unconstrict? It's been in my queue for ages. In fact, I think I've bought the pattern, it's in my library. So I might have to make that. So that's it for acquisitions, for future knitting plans, and for all my knitting so far in the last 2 weeks. My final thing was going to say I would really welcome, just generally outside of the 2 kind of projects I was asking for suggestions on, any pattern ideas from all of you. I have been trying to kind of branch out in Ravelry and just take the time to scroll through not just the top sweater patterns or not just the favourites for this, that and the other. I've really tried to just type in keywords and look, just take some time to look through all the different patterns on offer, because you know there'll be so many people who are up and coming designers or beginning and starting out, and you just won't necessarily find their patterns if you only look at the kind of top picks. So I've been taking some time to do that. I found some incredible designers. My slight struggle is lots of them are not size inclusive, which is a real shame because what they're producing I haven't seen before and is beautiful, but I don't know what to do. My hands are a little bit, I feel a bit conflicted on it, because I'm sure there would be a way to alter the pattern to make it size inclusive, but I just don't feel like people should have to do that. I feel like it should be accessible for everyone. But I'm wondering whether there's a middle ground to be struck, that I maybe, if they even include my size, which some of them don't, you know, if I knit them and I work out how to make them size inclusive and share them with you, then I've maybe done some of that work and some of that burden to make them more accessible. I don't know, but let me know what you think down below. It's this real, I can really understand, you know, having tried to do some design myself, I've had some ideas for sweaters and things, and I just haven't had the skills, to be honest, the skills to grade that in a way that is actually how human beings work. It's very easy to say, okay, you just increase everything by a ratio of this or decrease everything by a ratio of this, but actually that's not how it works. Like, people's bust circumference is not, you know, doesn't go up in the same ratio as their neck circumference or their waist circumference. You know, everyone's different. My ideal would be to have a kind of spreadsheet where you could plug in your different measurements and very precise and lots of specifics, and it would calculate it for you. And I know there are a couple of designs I think that have done that. So that's the ideal to get there. But I can really understand that for people starting out in the design world, you've kind of got to start somewhere, and employing someone to grade, you know, a professional pattern grader is a lot of money, and before you know whether or not your patterns are going to sell. I mean, if they're in my situation, you know, that really wouldn't have worked. I would have spent so much money on grading a pattern, and you know, you don't know if you're going to get the sales. So it's a really tricky one, but would really welcome your views. If people would find that helpful for me to maybe show some patterns and then explain how I would convert them to fit me, or how anyone else could convert them, maybe that would be a fun episode. Maybe people feel they prefer to just stick to patterns that are accessible to everyone from the get-go. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. But with that, I'm going to sign off and leave you to it. It's going to be a really, really exciting beginning to 2024. I'm excited to round up everything I've done this year. But just to give you a flavour of what's coming, there'll be a video next week, everything I've knit this year. Then there'll be a video, a normal podcast episode on the 5th of January. And from that point, I'm converting to releasing these on a Friday, which I'm really looking forward to. And the following week after that, there will be my first kind of tour of a yarn shop abroad. So that's coming, and I'm going to start that on a separate playlist from the podcast episodes. There will be another one hopefully coming in Edinburgh in March. So I'm beginning to line up some yarn shop tours, which is super exciting, and hopefully gives all of you a better idea of where to put on your bucket list or your travel list. so that when you are out and about and seeing different places, you know which yarn shops to go and visit, because I know that's something that I always look up whenever we go anywhere, and sometimes it's quite hard to know whether or not that extra 20-minute drive somewhere is going to be worth it or not. I'm sure in most cases it is. These are yarn shops, they're going to be beautiful, but now you will have a better idea of what you're going to see, I hope. So I'm very excited. With that, I will just wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas, or however you are spending the next week or so, and I will see you very, very soon before the new year. Bye everyone.